Diptych photos, two images usually captured and displayed in sequence, is a unique but often misunderstood in-camera editing technique. Popularized by snapshots on analog half-frame cameras, Fujifilm is trying to bring that look and experience to a digital audience. But why half-frame, and what can these diptychs tell us about modern photography? I'm David, and this is the whole picture. As they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, so more images in sequence can help you craft complex visual narratives. This is regardless of the format or medium, and while any pairing of images is technically a diptych, what sets them apart from conventional photos and sequencing, and of course a major selling point for something like the X-half, is the in-camera process that forces you to approach photography in a different light. Something that feels very much in line with Fuji's modern design philosophy. But why not in one of their other film-inspired cameras? After all, when half-frame was first introduced, the 18x24mm frame was more of a cost-saving feature, which allowed consumers to double the number of photos they could take on a roll, rather than some kind of stylistic choice. The vertical and more square frame still distinguishes the format today, but our association of half-frame cameras with diptych images is much more modern and coincidental than you might expect. As the 1980s and 90s made photography more accessible and automated, half-frame cameras fell out of favor, with full-frame 35mm being cemented as the most popular film format. So when a standard had to be picked for scanners as they became relevant in the 90s and early 2000s, it was the 24x36mm image plane, a full-frame 35mm, that was prioritized for automated home and lab scanners. Which means anyone who picked up a half-frame film camera in recent times would often get back an assortment of diptych images instead of individual photo files from a lab or even many home scanners. An unintended quirk that became its own style with unique visual storytelling potential. But I think half-frame diptychs also show us something powerful about film and photography itself. That images shouldn't be limited by convention or even our equipment. It's easy to overlook this today as digital cameras are increasingly becoming more flexible, powerful, and complex tools, but film cameras being more simple devices are a great example of this. In theory, the most complex film cameras are still just light, tight boxes with a lens. So it's the understanding of the process and medium that has allowed artists to create work that challenges and transcends what it means to make images. As this process becomes automated and focused on an experience or aesthetic, our scope of what's possible also shrinks to the specs and capabilities of the equipment rather than our imagination or understanding of the medium. And the same thing can be said about digital. Learning more about your tools and the history of images opens up all kinds of doors to emulate different formats. Something I've already covered in the past extensively, but when it comes to half-frame cameras and diptychs, it just takes some discipline and basic editing software to achieve a similar effect. With the power of digital being one day you can be photographing for clients and the next experimenting with all kinds of different historic formats, all with the same camera that you already own. And sure, a camera like the X-half can help us get a little bit more into that unique headspace and cuts out some of the work, but then why go so far to reintroduce friction into a digital process? Shutter advanced levers and waiting for images has nothing to do with the value or visual language of half-frame and diptychs. And I can't help but feel there's a missed opportunity here to modernize the lessons of a historic format through hardware, or democratize a technique that fits so nicely into our current photographic culture with software, focusing on the work itself rather than using gimmicks to sell some kind of pretend lifestyle. And I worry this is part of a larger trend where single-purpose or specialty use digital cameras are made as shortcuts to popular styles and trends that not only tend to remove a lot of the original context, but also deprive us of an opportunity to learn and understand what is behind these images and the medium itself. And it might also be keeping us reliant on gear, which I think has a bigger cost associated with it that goes beyond the trendy price tag. What happens if the app stops getting updated, or something breaks a few years down the line, or simply you want to explore other kinds of photographic styles? After all, if we look throughout history, photography is constantly changing, and if we get caught up in a cycle of buying rather than learning and being self-reliant, we might be contributing to a larger problem of photographic e-waste. All of this while the original cameras that started these trends are still often widely available, very accessible, and continue to help us learn about the past, present, and future of photography for many years to come. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another rant of mine. Fuji still continues to put out very interesting and unique cameras, but I feel like for a company that has such a historic and rich history in the analog space, cameras like the X-Half are a little bit puzzling. But let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching.